Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So in today's video, I have a few things that I'm going to be planting in the ground and a bunch of things I'm going to be transplanting. I'm not exactly sure where I want to be putting everything, but let me just show you what area I'm going to be working on because I haven't touched this area in quite a while. So right here underneath the deck, as you can see, I have kind of an overstock of plants. This is stuff that I'm just eventually going to be putting in the ground, except for those amaryllis. Those obviously won't be going in the ground here. But these are heuchera. I actually don't remember the exact variety. This one is called Amethyst Mist. So I have 5 of these here. They have been sitting underneath the deck probably since June, but they're in a gallon size. They're a pretty good container, and I'm going to be planting these 5 in one spot today. And this here is the space where I'm thinking about putting them. So we've got the front door right here, and there's kind of a mishmash of things planted. Almost everything that's here was already planted here, and we just ended up extending this bed. So we've got an Alberta spruce, 2 euonymus here. I think this is maybe Goldspot or Calippo, if that's a variety. And then there's this one here, which is called, I think Silver King is this variety. Again, I didn't plant these, so I don't know for sure. This one actually died almost back to the ground because we had quite a hard frost, or not a hard frost, but a hard freeze. These are hardy to zone 6, which means hardy to -10, and it got down to -10. So they definitely survived, but that one really did die all the way down to the ground. But the thing is, you can see that this color is different from these two, and to me, it just looks off having 2 different colors of the same plant. So I'd rather take this up, put this somewhere else in, and maybe put some other evergreen that is closer in texture to like a dwarf Alberta spruce, something that's going to be evergreen, but that can kind of fill up this hole, because you can see that there definitely is a hole from when these kind of died back a little bit. And then I also have this hosta here, which doesn't look bad, but it's kind of started to outgrow this space, and it's actually killing the inside of this here. You can see there's kind of a hole developing here from this hosta, and it's very noticeable in the winter time. So I'm gonna take up this hosta, and I will cut the leaves back so that way it doesn't have as difficult of a time transplanting. And then this Gaura I planted last year, but you can see kind of how it grows right into the ground, especially with all the rain we've had. So I may end up transplanting this somewhere else. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with this yet. This is an annual here, just an annual begonia, and then these here are lamb's ear. I think I'd like to move this as well. I may end up putting it behind here and just doing like a you know, kind of back layer, because I don't really, you don't see this area too much. So I'm not sure exactly what I want to do there. And then I want to plant the 5 heuchera right here. One more thing before I get started, I am going to be cutting back some of these perennials a little bit, like the hostas. I'll cut the leaves off just so that way they don't have as difficult of a time transplanting, because they photosynthesize enough for this season, and it's going to cause more stress if I don't end up pruning them at all. So I will just kind of hack them back a little bit. I want to break up the hosta into a few different plants as well, and then I'm going to be planting them kind of in this back area. Now I am making like one long continuous video of what this whole area is going to look like in the end, but I can at least show you where I plant those for today, just so you get some idea. Okay, with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so it is a few days later. I was trying to wait until I had good lighting to show you what these areas look like, especially on a nice sunny day. So let's take a look at everything that I took care of. I just want to start off and say that I ended up moving a few more things than I was thinking about for this video, but it kind of had to happen in order for me to move everything that I wanted to from that first spot next to the stairs, and you'll kind of see as I explain everything why I had to move so much. So the first area is in front of this mailbox here, but I actually need to take care of one more thing. This Gaura here is not doing all that well. I transplanted the whole thing. In hindsight, I should have cut it back, and I did think about cutting it back. So I'm just gonna do that right now. Okay, so this definitely looks a little different. You can see I just cut back the Gaura. I cut it down quite low, and the main reason why is that you can see these leaves, they're starting to get kind of crunchy now, so none of that foliage was gonna end up surviving. My hope is that the root system will survive. We'll see if it has enough energy to come back next year. If not, no worries, I can always replace it with something else. The idea here though is that I have 4 of the same rows, so this one was here in the center. It's an Oh So Easy double pink. You can see what some of these flowers and buds look like here on this one. These 3 I had in the backyard later on or earlier on in the season. They just were not doing well. Something was trying to eat them, but I've had really good luck with this one here. So I figured I'll put all 4 of them together. I ended up moving the creeping phlox that was here, and this Gaura can easily flop over. So my thought was, if I have these 4 roses that kind of grow around this Gaura, then it can grow up and hopefully get some support from those roses. So that's where this bed is. If I move over this way, this is where I ended up putting that creeping phlox. There was 4 plants in total. They didn't look too great, and I'm wondering if any of you guys have grown this before and have cut it back every year. Let me know if that works well for you. I ended up cutting it quite a bit because these plants were getting large. This was the only exception because I had to replace the plant that died that was in this place. So this one still looks really nice, but most of them just don't look all that great after they flower and they get all this dead in them. So I'm wondering if I should just cut them back after they're done flowering in the spring. Nonetheless, my mom still really wanted to have these in the front yard, so I just have them leading up to this walkway, and they're underneath this Japanese maple. They'll make a nice ground cover, and then I'll just have to cut them away from where you can see the pathway starts here. Moving over to this side, I have 5 of the same Heuchera variety here, and I got rid of everything else that was in this space. All right, I grabbed the tag for the Heuchera that I grew, but this is Amethyst Mist, so all 5 of them are the same here. And then just looking at this tag, it gets about 10 inches tall, 18 to 24 inches wide, hardy in zones 3 through 9. The idea of having the Heuchera here is that there was a lot of green and variegation happening. This is going to add some more of like a purplish red color, which I think also ties in this Japanese maple that's here since they have a similar color. And just give a more simplified look. You know, this is the front of the house. People drive by and look at the house. People walk right in, but don't take a lot of time here. So my thought was, I want to make something pretty that is easy for the eye to view. You don't have to take a lot of time to look here, but just something nice and simple, and the more complex stuff can go in the backyard. I did try to cut these euonymus at least a little bit to get them shaped up a little more, but this is going to take a couple seasons for them to really shape up to something better. And then I still want to get some sort of evergreen that can go right in the center here and fill this gap, but also you can see that there is a little more space kind of in between these 2 shrubs, more so than some of the other spots. I don't think I want to put anything there, but maybe just this one spot here, but something like a weeping white pine or weeping Colorado blue spruce, or if I find anything else, then that would look really nice. But just something evergreen and either like a greenish or maybe a blue color. So we're in the backyard now. This is the area where I'm starting some new grass for the fall. But right over here is kind of this new bed where it meets our yard with the neighbor's yard. And this is actually the area I've been throwing a lot of our like compost and just leaf litter, that type of stuff. But I wanted to get started with some sort of plants. This hosta I ended up dividing into 5 different plants. I cut all the leaves back, which is what I should have done with the Gaura, and I think that they're transplanting well. I'm hoping that they end up staying this way. You can see that there's 5 plants. I started with the largest one in the back because this gets the most shade. So my hope is that since this one is really small, it'll get the most sun and grow the fastest, so it'll kind of even out and they'll all be the same size. Now this I believe is a Patriot hosta that'll get about maybe like 10 to 12 inches tall, 24 inches wide. So I'm hoping that all 5 of these actually kind of grow into each other and make a nice mass of a hosta and do something larger in the back. Thinking like maybe a lemony lace elderberry or some other shrub that's going to tolerate a little bit more shade. So that was the idea idea for these. They're not really going to look like anything more for this season, but hopefully next year they can really root in, start to fill in this space, and then I will end up mulching all of this. It's just that this bed is a work in progress. You can see there's a lot of other stuff. I've got one kind of long video coming along for this entire thing, so you'll see the whole process of this bed in the end. But moving on to the other side here, there's a little grass walkway where I am here, and then this is the bed where I grew my vegetables this summer, and then I've got the birch tree, I've got this evergreen, the smoke bush, and this is where I ended up putting that lamb's ear plant. The lamb's ear I split into 4 different plants, and these actually still have some leaves left. These seem to be transplanting really well. They haven't wilted or anything like that, but it also rained for a couple days after, which really helped with the transition of these plants. So because the smoke bush has kind of a deep purple foliage to it, and because as you get closer to here it's a little bit more shady, I didn't really want to have something flowering too much where it would flower more over there and less over here if I did another swoop. So I figured something like lamb's ear would look more consistent. But it's a nice kind of silky, soft, obviously feeling, but also look to it where it's like kind of a lightish silver color compared to the bold purple. So I think that creates a nice contrast. These will fill up and kind of fill in this whole space over here. But I split up each 4, so you can see this is the first one. We've got the second one here. The third one's a little wonky because it has this extra piece on the end. And then the 4th one is over here. But I think that they're all looking really good. There's not really any signs of wilting or too much stress from these plants since I did cut them back. I honestly haven't done a whole lot of transplanting with plants before, especially if I divide and transplant them. And this is something I've been wanting to do for quite a while. I actually have wanted to move these plants since like the spring, but I knew that with it getting a lot warmer and having hot temperatures throughout the summer, the plants, if I were to divide them and split them up, they wouldn't like the whole, summer transition and dealing with those hot temperatures. So now is a really good time to do this. I'm hoping because we're still going to have another month or so without it really getting below freezing, it'll give them some time to root in, and then next year they can just bounce back like crazy. We'll fertilize them, and they'll really start to fill in their new spots. Okay, quick cut before the end because I forgot to mention this initially, but I did also move that Silver King euonymus, so let me just show you where it is now. So I'm in this back area right next to this Squanson flowering cherry, and you can see that I put the Silver King euonymus right here. Now the idea is that I'm going to have green from these 2 plants, blue from the Sensational Lavender, and then also purple from this Pearl Glam Beauty Bush. This is going to be a nice evergreen piece since the rest of this is going to either go away or it's going to lose its leaves for the winter time. And then this also has a nice variegated look. I like to add variegated plants in but not go overboard, so it's the only variegated thing I will put in this area. Just to mention too, this is a Summer Crush Hibiscus and then a Whisper Pink Catmint. And then that is a Kent Beauty Oregano, which is a little hard to see right now because it's still very small. But this stuff is hopefully going to grow quite a bit. So this is supposed to get about 6 feet tall, 3 feet wide. I'm hoping it gets a little bit taller, but this will provide a nice evergreen backdrop for the rest of these plants here. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys in this video. Just a lot of transplanting, moving stuff, and filling in a lot of holes. I'm really starting to feel better about the spaces that I'm filling, and it's more along the vision of what I'm kind of looking for the future. There's a lot of stuff that was here when we moved in that I wanted to kind of move out, but I just didn't have the specific spots for it. So it's nice to see that they're going in, and hopefully everything will take well to its new spot. All right, besides that, I hope you guys liked this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one.